Yeah, so I'm here with Heather Auger this week, but Heather's asked me to speak. I'd just like to encourage everyone to take the time to meet Heather and chat with her about her presentation later. Let's see. So I'm talking about Bigstone and their food sovereignty projects today. I just thought I'd start off with some maps and context. So I'm talking about northeastern Alberta, where the Athabasca Oil Sands are. This map, do I have a pointer on this too? Yeah, the little green arrow? Great. Okay, so this map shows us the Athabasca Oil Sands deposit and also the two other ones, the Peace River and the Cold Lake. And when we think of the Athabasca Oil Sands, we often think of Fort McMurray, which is right here. And this is the disturbed, this fuchsia pink border is the disturbed mineable area. But we can see that the deposit's a lot larger, and of course oil companies have come up with technologies to access those areas. So it's not open pit, it's in situ type of mining, but we can see that the Bigstone Cree territory is all in this area here. So in the other side of the Athabasca River from the open pit mine, so on the west side. This is a map of Bigstone Cree Nation's territory and their various small pocket reserves. I'll talk about Treaty 8 in a moment and why I refer to them as little pocket reserves. This is a map the Bigstone Cree Nation generated that shows all of the existing human footprint, oil and gas related developments in their territory. I'm not sure if you can see it very well, but you can see it's quite saturated. So Bigstone Cree Nation is within the Treaty 8 area. Colin showed a great map showing all of the treaty areas in Canada earlier. But I always like to point out that in the commissioner's report attached to Treaty 8, there's some really great some great tidbits, some information that I think is really overlooked when we think about how treaties are being infringed. And one of the things that they said was their chief difficulty was the apprehension that the hunting and fishing privileges were to be curtailed in their negotiations. So the treaty negotiators assured the headmen that the treaty would not lead to any forced interference with their mode of life. Meanwhile, one of the treaty commissioners or chroniclers, Charles Mayer, wrote, the tar, referring to the oil sands or tar sands, whatever it may be otherwise, is a fuel and burned in our campfires like coal. That this region is stored with a substance of great economic value is beyond all doubt. And when the hour of development comes, it will, I believe, prove to be one of the wonders of northern Canada. So we can see at the time of signing treaty, they were already thinking about access to the oil sands. So Heather works in the Lands and Consultation Office here at Bigstone Cree Nation. And so it's an office that is designed to deal with consulting with the companies in the territory. They work with a league of environmental monitors, most of them trained by EcoCanada's Building Environmental Aboriginal Human Resources. And the people in the office are called officers, so Heather is in an officer position right now. So they work with knowledge holders and elders, and their mandate is to preserve and protect their traditional territory. Of course, they're inundated with consultation in terms of environmental impact assessments. And this is a duck that was brought in. So I had worked in traditional land use consulting for years, and with Bigstone Cree Nation decided to do my doctoral research related to concerns about wild food contamination. And just as I was going through the process of getting permission from the chief and council, and Heather knew about it, she called me because someone brought in ducks and covered in oil, and they didn't know where to take them because they didn't know who they could trust to sort of study them or analyze them. So I was going to skip ahead, but I'm going to stay there, sorry. Yeah, so we ended up initiating a study that I'll talk about, but so this is some of the things that the office there at Bigstone Cree Nation is dealing with. Here we have a beaver house and water, and it's completely saturated in oil. So Bigstone Cree Nation did have a traditional land use study that was published by the Arctic Institute of North America, CICADA-ICCA now, and since then they've done, probably significantly more research. And we're also partnered with Clint Westman at University of Saskatchewan on his project called Cultural Politics of Energy in Northern Alberta. And one of the partners, who's also a partner, has been involved with some of the CICADA work, is Dr. Josie Auger, a colleague of mine at Athabasca University and a Bigstone Cree Nation treaty member. She was unable to make it today. Oh, and I was going to mention that Clint Westman is also known as Clint Eastwood in Bigstone Cree Nation territory. So the study that I mentioned, that when Heather phoned me, so I was aware that the federal government had a First Nations environmental contaminants program that provided funding to sample food. And so we partnered with the McGill Center for Indigenous Peoples, Nutrition and Environment, and sampled, we got the funding, and so the Bigstone Cree Nation's environmental monitors sampled 150 food samples. We did 10 of 10, so we looked at the 10 food items or animals or plants that people were most concerned about, and sampled them 10 times, so we got 100, and then we had 50 random, so anything anyone had in their freezer, anything anyone collected. And you can see this fish came from the South Wabasca lake with the cysts, and deformities. I've shown this picture before at CICADA meetings. I like to horrify people with it. So our next step that we're working on, so the issue with sort of the contaminant studies is that it's extremely expensive. And then we just had results from 1 year. So we did have, it wasn't like sort of dramatic results like you might expect. We saw some mercury in rabbit livers and some fish, concerns around mercury in fish. Community members came and said, we don't actually want to know the results because we're eating this food all the time. We don't want more stress. And some of the Heather's colleagues in the office said, well, we need something that we can use. Like what kind of results can we generate where we can actually use them in our negotiations or expressing our concerns. So we've kind of thought about it, trying to find ways to fund and keep these sort of projects going over time, because I think that's one of the best ways we can continue to demonstrate that people's concerns are real. And so we're currently working on a project that we've called What's in the Water. And we've partnered with the Athabasca River Basin Institute at Athabasca University, and one of my colleagues, a microbiologist, is working with us, and we're going to have these sort of handheld devices that the Bigstone Cree Nation monitors will use to test water. And then likewise, we're working with someone in veterinary in sciences who's going to help us correlate it with moose sampling, which is really a cultural keystone species in the community, the thing that people are saying they want studied the most. Now, I'm going to my phone because I messaged Shauna Zenteno, the microbiologist who we're partnering with, and I said, can you please give me a few plain language lines to share in this presentation, because this work it's hard for me to explain. It's super confusing as an anthropologist. And so I'm going to read you the lines that she gave me, and I'm not promising that it's any more, like this is not plain language to me, but she said, we will investigate the diversity of microbial communities across the spectrum of water samples in northern Alberta using metagenomics. High throughput sequencing will be performed on water samples and the data processed using computational methods, bioinformatics, to determine the composition of microbial communities at different sites, as well as the frequency of pathogenic species, antibiotic resistance genes, heavy metal resistance genes, and horizontal gene transfer elements in the environment. I hope that benefited anyone that's curious about it. But really, what she's saying is that through the microbial analysis, we're going to be able to really look at impacts that that pollution is having on all levels of the community. So she's saying on human health, we're going to look at even tap water, animals, fish. We can correlate it with samples we do with any of the animals or plants in the environment. So hopefully we'll see what comes from it. And just finally, we also have a project. We're still working at the details with the Elders Council, and starting this summer, we're going to have a series of just traditional food camps and celebrating traditional foods. In this region, through the process of negotiating with companies, traditional land use studies, the fact that the majority of Bigstone Cree Nation members prefer bush food and continue to eat bush food tends to get sort of glossed over, ignored, in this active wastelanding, we'll say, of the boreal forest in the region. So we want to really, of course, we're going to include elders and youth, but really just have a series of gatherings where we celebrate the fact that people are still eating traditional foods, and just to end on a positive note as well.